My husband is in Dubai with his girlfriend while I'm at our anniversary dinner. He texted, away for a family emergency. What he doesn't know is, I'm the one who funded his trip, and the private investigator sending me proof of his emergency. Tomorrow his lies unravel as I serve him divorce papers. My fingers trembled as I opened the text message that would shatter our anniversary dinner plans. The Olive Garden booth felt suddenly too large, the empty seat across from me screaming Spencer's absence louder than any words could. Away for a family emergency. So sorry, honey. We'll make it up to you. I set my phone face down on the table, the screen's glow fading to black like the last embers of what I'd once believed was a solid marriage. The bread basket remained untouched between us, between me and the ghost of my husband who was supposedly rushing to his brother's side in Chicago. Except I knew better. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for joining me for this story of betrayal and resilience. If you're drawn to tales of women finding their strength in life's most devastating moments, consider subscribing. It's completely free and helps us share more stories of transformation like Sophia's. Now let's join her at that fateful anniversary dinner where everything changed. The waitress approached with a practiced smile that faltered when she noticed I was alone. Would you like to wait a bit longer for the other member of your party? No, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. He won't be joining me tonight. I gestured to the menu. I'll have the tour of Italy and a glass of the house red, please. She nodded with the knowing sympathy of someone who'd seen this scene play out before. Coming right up, ma'am. As she walked away, my phone vibrated with an incoming email. The subject line made my heart leap into my throat. Dubai confirmation. Urgent. My hands were rock steady now as I opened the attachment from Mike Jackson Investigations. The first photo showed Spencer, my husband of 12 years, the man whose dental school I'd helped finance with countless overtime shifts, stepping out of an airport taxi. His arm was wrapped possessively around a woman's waist, his head bent close to hers as they checked into the Burj Al Arab. The woman wasn't a stranger. Jessica Miller, the dental supply representative who brought lunch to his office staff every month. The same Jessica who'd sent me a Christmas card last year, thanking the Reynolds family for Spencer's continued business. I took a long sip of water, ice clinking against my teeth. The decision to hire Mike Jackson hadn't come easily. For 2 months I'd lain awake beside Spencer, listening to his breathing while cataloging the changes. Password-protected phone, new cologne, unexplained withdrawals from our joint account, the growing distance between us that no amount of home-cooked dinners or new nightgowns could bridge. The classic signs, Mike had said during our first meeting in his modest office above the hardware store. Doesn't mean he's having an affair, Mrs. Reynolds. But something's going on. I remember how I'd flinched at his directness, this former county sheriff with kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach. I just need to know, I told him. One way or another. Writing that $2,500 check had felt like betrayal. Money pulled from my emergency fund. Overtime hours at the hospital where I supervised the billing department. Extra shifts I'd picked up believing we were saving for a bathroom renovation. The irony wasn't lost on me. Using my hard-earned money to discover how my husband was spending his. The waitress returned with my wine, a generous pour in a stemmed glass. Happy anniversary, she said gently, having noticed my reservation details. 13 years, I replied, raising my glass in a silent toast to the empty chair. The same restaurant where Spencer had proposed, down on one knee between the salad and entree, presenting a modest diamond that had seemed enormous to us back then. I scrolled through Mike's email, each photo more damning than the last. Spencer and Jessica entering the hotel. Spencer's hand on the small of her back. A gesture so intimate it made my stomach clench. And then the confirmation of charges. $7,500 for airline tickets to Dubai, charged to our joint Visa card. The same card I'd been making extra payments on, believing we were saving for a family trip to Disney World with my sister's kids next summer. I logged into our online banking app, the password as familiar as my own birthday. There it was, the transaction from 3 weeks ago hidden among grocery purchases and utility bills. How had I missed it? Between covering for a coworker's maternity leave and keeping our home running, I'd gotten sloppy with our financial oversight. Another text from Spencer lit up my phone. At Dan's apartment now. His girlfriend left him. Total mess. Talk tomorrow? I almost laughed. Dan, Spencer's brother, had called me yesterday about borrowing our lawn mower this weekend. He'd mentioned plans to attend a Cubs game downtown with friends from work. No girlfriend troubles. No emergency. Just lies piling upon lies. The pasta arrived steaming hot, a sampling of Italian favorites I'd typically share with Spencer. The waitress hesitated, then asked, "Would you like me to bring a to-go container for the extra?" "No," I said. "I think I've been taking home leftovers for too long." She didn't understand my meaning, but nodded politely before leaving me alone with my thoughts and Mike Jackson's evidence. I remembered his warning during our last meeting. "Mrs. Reynolds, prepare yourself. Whatever we find or don't find, things won't go back to how they were before." He'd handed me a folder with instructions. Secure important documents. Open a separate bank account. Change passwords on personal email accounts. Small acts of self-protection that had felt premature then but now seemed woefully inadequate. I twirled fettuccine around my fork, not tasting it as I calculated the years I'd sacrificed for Spencer's dreams. My associate's degree abandoned when his dental school demanded more financial support. The small house we'd purchased together in this quiet Midwestern town, chosen for its proximity to where he wanted to establish his practice. The nights I'd spent alone while he networked at dental conferences. Conferences that, according to Mike's investigation, Jessica Miller had also attended. My phone pinged with a final update from Mike. Footage of Spencer and Jessica entering their hotel room, time-stamped just 3 hours ago. Spencer carried their luggage, looking relaxed and happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Would you care for dessert?" The waitress reappeared, her notepad ready. A small, bitter smile crossed my lips. "Yes," I decided. "The tiramisu, please. It's my husband's favorite." I would eat it alone, this small act of defiance paid for on the credit card Spencer didn't know I'd started monitoring daily. Tomorrow he would return home to emptiness. Not just an empty dinner chair, but the empty shell of a marriage he'd hollowed out with his choices. Tomorrow the man who believed he was so clever, so entitled to his family emergency, while lounging in Dubai with his girlfriend, would learn just how resourceful his overlooked wife could be. Because while Spencer had been building his affair, I had been building my evidence. And as I sipped my wine in the same booth where he'd once promised to love me forever, I made a new promise to myself. This anniversary might be our last, but it wouldn't be the one either of us would forget. The tiramisu arrived with an extra chocolate drizzle and 2 small candles. "On the house," the waitress said with a gentle smile. "No one should be alone on their anniversary." I thanked her, waiting until she walked away before removing the candles. The tiny flames seemed to mock what remained of my marriage, small, flickering, and easily extinguished. As I set them aside, my phone buzzed with another notification from Mike Jackson. Additional documents attached. My finger hovered over the link. Did I really want to see more while sitting here surrounded by couples celebrating actual milestones? The elderly pair holding hands across their table, the young couple in the corner booth sharing a single slice of cheesecake. People whose anniversaries weren't facades covering betrayal. I tapped the attachment anyway. Hotel receipts from the Burj Al Arab filled my screen. $1,200 per night for their 5-night stay in a deluxe suite with ocean views. The reservation had been made 3 months ago, long before Spencer's emergency materialized. The confirmation email had been sent to Spencer's personal Gmail account, not the one we shared for family matters, but one I discovered in his browsing history while using his laptop to print tax forms. My stomach tightened. The pasta I'd barely touched now seemed impossible to finish. Another document appeared. A dinner reservation for tonight at Al Muntaha, the luxury restaurant hovering 200 meters above the Arabian Gulf. A special note in the reservation read, "Anniversary celebration. Please arrange champagne upon arrival." Their anniversary? My fork clattered against the plate. I scrolled further to find a receipt for a diamond pendant from Tiffany & Company, $4,850 charged to our joint American Express card last month when Spencer told me he needed to replace expensive equipment at his practice. The delivery address wasn't our home or his office, but an apartment complex across town I didn't recognize. I switched to our banking app again, methodically checking every account. The pattern was clear now that I knew what to look for. Small withdrawals of $500 or $600. Just under the amount I might question, accumulating over months. Money I'd thought was going toward our future, funding his affair instead. How's everything tasting? My waitress appeared again, her gaze falling on my barely touched food. It's perfect, I lied. I'm just savoring it. Take your time. She hesitated. Your husband's missing a wonderful evening. Yes, I agreed, forcing a smile. He certainly is. When she left, I returned to Mike's email. His message was simple. Mrs. Reynolds, there's more. Call when you're ready to discuss next steps. My phone chimed with another text from Spencer. Dan's really struggling. Might need to stay overnight. Don't wait up. The audacity stole my breath. While he dined overlooking the Dubai skyline with Jessica, he expected me to believe he was consoling his brother in Chicago. The brother who, according to social media notifications I could now see on my phone, was currently posting photos from Wrigley Field with his friends. Everything all right with your meal? A manager approached, concern evident as he gestured toward my cooling food. Everything's fine, I assured him. Just received some unexpected news. Nothing too serious, I hope? His genuine concern nearly broke through my carefully maintained composure. Actually, I heard myself say, I just discovered my husband isn't having a family emergency in Chicago. He's in Dubai with another woman. The words hung between us, raw and unfiltered. The manager's professional smile faltered. I'm so sorry, he said finally. Would you like something stronger than house wine? On us, of course. I almost declined, then reconsidered. Scotch neat. Something expensive. While waiting for the drink, I scrolled through the rest of Mike's findings. Airline confirmation emails showing adjoining seats. A car service reservation from the Dubai airport. Jessica's Instagram account, set to private, but Mike had gained access, showing filtered photos of exotic meals but carefully avoiding any images of Spencer. The scotch arrived, amber liquid catching the light like liquid gold. Macallan 18, the manager said. One of our finest. I raised it slightly. To truth, I murmured, taking a sip that burned all the way down. As the alcohol warmed my veins, a strange calm settled over me. The initial shock was fading, replaced by something colder and more focused. I pulled out a small notebook from my purse and began making calculations. The Disney World trip we'd never take. $4,000. My overtime shifts since January. 212 hours. The money Spencer had diverted this year alone. Approximately $32,000. The value of the 12 years I'd invested in our marriage. Incalculable. I opened my email and composed a message to Mike Jackson. I've seen enough. Let's discuss next steps tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you for your thoroughness. The manager returned with a small box. Your tiramisu to go. And we've added a few extra breadsticks. He lowered his voice. My sister went through something similar last year. It gets better. I nodded, unsure if I believed him but appreciating the gesture. Outside, the parking lot was dark except for security lights illuminating patches of asphalt. I sat in my Honda Civic. Practical, reliable, purchased when Spencer had insisted we couldn't afford anything nicer despite his BMW sitting in our garage at home. I checked our credit card accounts one more time, downloading statements to my phone. Evidence. Ammunition. Each receipt a bullet in the chamber of what would soon become my Declaration of Independence. Spencer's final text of the night arrived as I started the car. Love you. Promise to make this up to you soon. I didn't respond. Instead, I placed my phone on the passenger seat, the seat where Spencer should have been, and drove toward our empty house, the dashboard clock reading 9:17 p.m. In Dubai, Spencer and Jessica would be finishing their anniversary champagne, unaware that every charge, every reservation, every moment of their celebration was being catalogued by the woman who had made it all possible. By tomorrow, I would be ready to turn evidence into action. I pulled into our driveway at 10:03 p.m., the modest three-bedroom ranch house dark except for the porch light I'd left on that morning. Our neighbor's dog barked a greeting as I gathered my purse in the takeout container, the smell of garlic bread lingering in my car. Inside, the silence felt different tonight. Not the comfortable quiet of a shared life, but the hollow emptiness of betrayal. I kicked off my heels and made a pot of coffee instead of pouring the glass of wine I desperately wanted. I needed clarity, not comfort. The kitchen table had always been command central for our household finances. I spread out my laptop, the folder of printed bank statements I'd been collecting, and a legal pad for notes. The coffee maker gurgled in the background as I logged into our online banking accounts. What I'd glimpsed at the restaurant was just the surface. With our entire financial history laid out chronologically, the pattern was unmistakable. For the past 8 months, Spencer had been making regular transfers from our joint savings account to somewhere else. $1, $500 here, $2,000 there. Careful to keep each transaction small enough that I might overlook it amid our regular expenses. I traced the outgoing transfers to an account number I didn't recognize. Nearly $42,000 had disappeared from the money we'd been saving for a kitchen renovation and eventually, the family we'd planned to start once his practice was firmly established. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for my coffee mug. Memories surfaced of all the sacrifices that had funded that account. Working double shifts on Thanksgiving and Christmas last year when the hospital was short-staffed. Declining my parents' invitation to their anniversary celebration in Ohio because we couldn't afford the trip right now. The overtime hours that left me exhausted but proud we were building something together. I opened another folder. This one containing Mike Jackson's detailed investigation report. The Dubai trip wasn't an isolated incident. Spencer had taken Jessica to San Diego in January, a dental implant seminar, Nashville in March, a practice management conference, and Miami in June, a continuing education requirement. Each trip charged to the practice credit card I'd co-signed for when we were first starting out. When Spencer's student loans had tanked his credit score and the bank required my signature as guarantee. The credit card that was supposed to be strictly for business expenses. I remembered how excited he'd been before each trip, how he'd kissed me goodbye with promises to learn everything he could, to make our future more secure. How I'd packed his suitcase for the Miami trip while he was at the office, carefully ironing his dress shirts and tucking in his favorite toiletries. Had Jessica laughed when he unpacked them? My coffee grew cold as I dug deeper. Dinner reservations at restaurants I'd mentioned wanting to try someday. Hotel upgrades to Ocean View Suites. A chartered sunset cruise in Miami that cost more than my monthly student loan payment. When the practice is more established, he told me whenever I suggested a weekend getaway. We need to be smart with money right now. I pulled out our tax documents from the filing cabinet, searching for anything else I might have missed. Behind our 2023 returns, I found something unexpected. A loan application from Lakeside Credit Union dated just 3 weeks ago. It detailed a request for $95,000 using our house as collateral. My signature appeared on the bottom line. Except I'd never seen this document before, let alone signed it. I held it under the light, studying the signature. Close enough to fool a loan officer who didn't know better, but this in Sophia was formed differently than how I wrote it. The loop was too tight, the angle too sharp. Spencer had forged my signature. The purpose of the loan was listed as investment property. I searched through Spencer's emails on our shared computer and found correspondence with a realtor in Scottsdale about a perfect vacation condo with excellent rental potential. A vacation property. Without a single conversation with me. I returned to Mike's report, flipping to the photos section. There, in a shot of Spencer and Jessica poolside in Miami, I noticed something glinting on her wrist. I enlarged the image, focusing on the distinctive silver and blue design of the bracelet adorning her tanned arm. My stomach lurched with recognition. I pulled up our credit card statement from April. There it was, a $750 charge at the David Yurman store in the upscale mall 2 towns over. Spencer had claimed it was a birthday gift for his mother. I'd even helped him pick out gift wrap when he brought home a small blue bag. A gift I'd indirectly helped select, for the woman he was seeing behind my back. I walked to our bedroom and opened my jewelry box. The Mother's Day gift from Spencer this year had been noticeably modest. Costume jewelry from the department store that had already tarnished. Business has been a little tight, he'd explained with an apologetic smile. Meanwhile, he'd spent nearly $1,000 on Jessica. Back at the kitchen table, I created a new spreadsheet. Column A. Every extra shift I'd worked in the past year. Column B. The amount earned. Column C. The corresponding expenses Spencer had made for his affair within days of my deposits. December 26th overtime shift, $450. December 28th dinner with Jessica, $380. Weekend call in February, $1,200. Upgraded hotel suite in Nashville, $950. Easter weekend double shift, $850. David Yurman bracelet, $750. The correlation was almost perfect. Each sacrifice I'd made had directly funded his betrayal. Dawn was breaking by the time I finished my analysis. My coffee had been refilled multiple times, the mug leaving rings on old bank statements I no longer needed to preserve. The evidence was overwhelming and meticulously documented in my new spreadsheet. I closed my laptop and rubbed my eyes. Outside, the newspaper delivery person tossed our morning paper onto the driveway. Normal life continuing as though mine hadn't just imploded. My phone buzzed with a text from Spencer. Heading to airport now. See you tonight. Love you. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my sister Maria, who answered despite the early hour. Soph? Everything okay? No, I said, my voice calm despite the storm inside me. But it will be. Can I stay with you for a few days? I have some things to figure out. Of course, she said without hesitation. What's going on? I'll explain when I see you. Maria? Remember that trip to Disney World we talked about taking with the kids? Yeah. We'll still go. Just not with Spencer. I hung up and looked around the kitchen. The space where I'd prepared countless meals, balanced our budget, and built a life I thought was shared. The house suddenly felt like a monument to my gullibility. But not anymore. Knowledge was replacing shock and determination was crowding out heartbreak. Spencer's lies had been meticulous. My response would be equally thorough. I packed an overnight bag and left our house before the morning rush hour began. Spencer wouldn't be back until evening, giving me plenty of time to set my plan in motion. My first stop wasn't my sister's place, but a small brick building on Main Street that housed Gunderson's Hardware on the ground floor and 3 professional offices above it. The door at the top of the narrow staircase had a frosted glass panel with simple lettering, Alan Parker, Attorney at Law. No flashy advertisements, no promises of aggressive representation or huge settlements. Just a name and a profession, exactly what I needed. Ellen had handled my parents well when they downsized 5 years ago. She wasn't a high-powered divorce attorney from the city, but she knew our town, our people, and most importantly, she knew the local judges. Her secretary, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and efficient movements, looked up from her computer. Sophia, do you have an appointment? No, but I was hoping Ellen might have some time this morning. I hesitated. It's important. Something in my expression must have conveyed the urgency. She picked up her phone, murmured a few words, and nodded. She can see you now. Go right in. Ellen's office was modest but tidy, with law books lining one wall and her diplomas from the State University hanging above her desk. She stood when I entered, her handshake firm, her expression shifting from professional welcome to concern as she took in my appearance. Sophia? What's wrong? I set my accordion folder on her desk, carefully labeled sections visible through the plastic tabs. My husband is having an affair, Ellen. And that's actually the least of what I've discovered. For the next hour, I methodically worked through the evidence. The bank statements showing Spencer's systematic draining of our accounts. The forged loan application. The credit card statements documenting his lavish spending on Jessica while I worked extra shifts to make ends meet. Ellen took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions but mostly letting me talk. When I finally paused for breath, she leaned back in her chair. This is meticulously documented, Sophia. But before we discuss divorce proceedings, may I ask why you brought these? She pointed to a section labeled, Dental Practice Finances. Because I think Spencer's fraud goes beyond our marriage. I opened the folder to reveal printouts from the practice management software, reports I'd accessed using the administrator password I'd set up when we first purchased the system years ago. I think he's committing insurance fraud. Ellen's eyebrows rose as I walked her through what I'd found. Basic cleanings coded as deep periodontal treatments. Simple fillings billed as complex restorations. Routine X-rays classified as comprehensive imaging studies. I noticed the discrepancies last night while looking through our finances. The practice income has been steadily increasing, but our personal accounts don't reflect it. That's when I realized. He's getting higher insurance reimbursements and pocketing the difference, Ellen finished, her expression grim. This is serious, Sophia. Beyond divorce territory. I know. My voice was steady despite the churning in my stomach. That's why I'm here. I need to protect myself before all of this comes crashing down. Ellen nodded. We need to file emergency motions immediately. Separate your assets, secure your home, and document everything before he returns. She reached for her phone. I'm calling Judge Matthews. We can have temporary orders by this afternoon. While Ellen made arrangements with the court, I made another call to Denise Williams, who had been the receptionist at Spencer's practice since it opened. Denise, whose Christmas bonus I'd personally wrapped each year, whose daughter's Girl Scout cookies I always bought, whose mother's funeral we'd attended 3 years ago. Sophia? Is everything okay? Denise's concern was evident even through the phone. Actually, no. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. It's important. The pause on the line lasted several seconds. This is about Spencer and Jessica, isn't it? My breath caught. You knew. Another pause. Not at first. But then he started asking me to keep 2 scheduling books. One for the actual appointments and another, official, one for insurance and... She hesitated. For you when you stopped by. The confirmation stung despite everything I already knew. Denise, I need your help. Spencer's been manipulating the billing codes and I know, she interrupted, her voice dropping to a whisper. He said it was standard practice, but it didn't feel right. That's why I've been keeping copies of the original treatment notes. You have evidence? Yes. I was afraid someday someone would come asking questions and I didn't want to be the one blamed. I can bring everything to you. Today if you want. Ellen had finished her call and was watching me with interest. I put the phone on speaker and set it on her desk. Denise, I'm with a lawyer right now. Would you be willing to make a statement? By noon, Ellen had filed emergency motions to freeze our joint assets and secure the house. By 2 o'clock, Judge Matthews had signed temporary orders preventing Spencer from accessing our accounts while the case was investigated. By 4, Denise had delivered a thumb drive containing 2 years of discrepancies between actual treatments and insurance billing, evidence that would eventually reach the state dental board and insurance commissioners. What about your job? I asked Denise as she prepared to leave Ellen's office. Spencer will know you helped me. Denise straightened her shoulders. I've been looking for a way out for months. Dr. Wilson's office across town has been trying to hire me away for a year. She managed a small smile. Besides, my mother always said staying silent when you know something's wrong makes you part of the wrong. After Denise left, Ellen reviewed our progress. The house is secured. Your 401k provided the down payment and we've documented that. Your personal accounts are now separated, and Spencer can't touch the joint accounts without court approval. She tapped her pen against her legal pad. What about the practice? Your name is on several of the founding documents. I want distance from it, I said firmly. Whatever legal entanglements need to be undone, let's do it. I don't want any connection to what's been happening there. Ellen nodded. Smart. We'll work on severing those ties cleanly. He checked her watch. What time does Spencer return? His flight lands at 7. And where will you be? I thought of our house, the one I'd painted and furnished, where I'd planted perennials along the walkway and hung curtains in every room. The home I'd made while Spencer was building a life with someone else. With my sister for now. I gathered my folders and stood. But don't worry. Spencer will know exactly where to find me when he needs to. As I walked to my car, my phone chimed with a text from Spencer. Boarding soon. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you. I didn't respond. Instead, I texted Mike Jackson. Everything in place. Proceed with final delivery as discussed. The pieces were set. By tomorrow morning, Spencer would discover just how thoroughly his careful deceptions had unraveled, and who had orchestrated their exposure. Maria's guest room became my sanctuary for 3 days. Her kids, 10-year-old Emma and 8-year-old Jack, accepted my presence with the resilience of children, asking only if Uncle Spencer would be joining us for pizza night. When I said no, they nodded and moved on to debating toppings, while Maria squeezed my hand under the table. Spencer's texts escalated from confused to concerned to angry as the hours passed with no response from me. The final message, sent at 11:43 p.m. on the night of his return, read, "Where are you? Called the hospital. They said you took personal leave. What's going on? Are you sure you don't want to answer him?" Maria asked as we sat on her back porch, watching fireflies rise from the lawn. "Just to let him know you're safe?" I sipped my tea, considering. He's not worried about my safety. He's worried about what I know. I pulled out my phone and composed a brief message. I'm safe. We'll talk tomorrow. The response came immediately. Asterisk, what's going on? Where are you? Asterisk. I turned off my phone. Morning brought a crisp September day, perfect for new beginnings. I dressed carefully in a navy pantsuit I'd worn to professional conferences, applied minimal makeup, and drove to Ellen's office to collect the final documents. Mike Jackson met us there, his expression solemn as he reviewed the plan. The process server will deliver the divorce papers to Dr. Reynolds' office at exactly 12:15, he confirmed. That's during the staff lunch meeting you mentioned. All the hygienists and assistants will be in the conference room, I nodded. Spencer always reviews the week schedule with them on Thursdays. A meeting I'd suggested years ago to improve office efficiency. Ellen handed me a thick manila envelope. The dental board has already acknowledged receipt of our complaint. And here's confirmation that the insurance carriers have opened investigations. He studied my face. Are you absolutely certain about this timing? We could wait. No, I said firmly. Every day he continues practicing is another day patients are being deceived. What had begun as evidence gathering for my divorce had evolved into something more significant. A matter of professional ethics that transcended my personal grievances. I returned to Maria's to wait. At 12:22 p.m., my phone rang with Spencer's number. I didn't answer. It rang again immediately. And again. Text messages flooded in. What the hell is this? Divorce papers? Seriously? You're reporting me to the dental board? Answer your phone. At 12:45, a different number appeared on my screen. Denise from the office. He's going ballistic, she said without preamble. Threw the papers across the room, canceled all afternoon appointments and locked himself in his office. Her voice lowered. Thank you for not mentioning me in the documents. That was Ellen's idea. Your statement is confidential until the formal proceedings. The hygienists are talking about quitting. Nobody wants to be associated with this when it breaks. Pause. Dr. Wilson asked if I could start Monday. You should take it. I already did. Relief colored her voice. Sophia? Good luck today. I met Spencer at our house at 3 o'clock with Ellen waiting in her car outside, close enough for support but giving us privacy for what needed to be said. He arrived with thunderous expression, slamming his car door hard enough to make the neighbor's dog start barking. What the hell are you doing? He demanded as soon as I opened the door. Some process server walks into my office, hands me divorce papers in front of my entire staff, and you're filing complaints with the dental board? Have you lost your mind? I stood in the doorway, not inviting him in. Dubai was lovely this time of year? His face drained of color. What? Jessica enjoyed the ocean view suite at the Burj Al Arab? The anniversary dinner at Al Muntaha. Sophia, I can explain. Your brother's emergency in Chicago was particularly interesting, considering he was at a Cubs game that night. He posted pictures. Spencer ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting as he recalibrated. Yes, I lied about where I was. I've been seeing Jessica. It was wrong and I'm sorry, but destroying my practice over it? That's insane. This isn't about Jessica, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. This is about the systematic fraud you've been committing. The falsified billing codes. The misappropriated practice funds. The forged loan application with my signature. His expression shifted from defensive to calculating. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. Denise kept records. For the first time, fear flashed across his face. You'll ruin everything. Our future, the practice, everything we've built. Everything I funded, I corrected. With overtime shifts and sacrificed dreams and the down payment from my 401k. The future you were building with Jessica while I worked 60-hour weeks. The fight seemed to drain from him. What do you want? The divorce terms are in the papers. I get the house, my money paid for it anyway. You keep the practice and its liabilities. We divide the remaining assets equally minus what you've already diverted. Ellen has the numbers. And the dental board? That's between you and them now. He stared at me as though seeing me for the first time. I never thought you'd do something like this. That was your mistake, I said simply. You never really thought about me at all. 6 months later, I sat in a classroom at the community college, listening to a lecture on healthcare management systems. My laptop displayed a carefully organized spreadsheet, so different from the chaotic ones that had documented Spencer's betrayal. This one tracked my degree progress. 15 credits completed, 25 to go. The divorce had finalized with surprising speed. Spencer, facing investigations from the dental board and 3 insurance carriers, had been eager to settle. I kept the house and received a fair division of our assets. More importantly, I kept my dignity. Ellen helped me file the paperwork to legally restore my maiden name, Sophia Carter. It felt strange on official documents at first, like trying on clothes I'd outgrown. But with each form I signed, each piece of mail addressed to Ms. Carter, I reclaimed another piece of myself. The hospital had been surprisingly supportive. When the story broke in our small community, as such stories inevitably do, my supervisor had called me into his office. I'd braced for embarrassment or pity, but instead received an unexpected opportunity. "We're creating a new compliance position in billing," he'd explained. "Someone with both administrative experience and understanding of medical coding ethics. Given recent events, I thought you might be uniquely qualified." The promotion came with a modest salary increase and a flexible schedule that accommodated my night classes. 1 year to the day after that fateful anniversary dinner, I hosted a small gathering at my house. No longer our house, but truly mine. The kitchen had been painted a soft sage green, replacing the sterile white Spencer had preferred. The backyard featured a fire pit where Maria's kids toasted marshmallows while adults circled with glasses of wine. Denise arrived with Dr. Wilson, their professional relationship having evolved into something more personal. My parents drove in from Ohio, Mom bringing her famous apple pie. Neighbors I'd reconnected with after years of Spencer's subtle social isolation brought side dishes and warm hugs. Ellen arrived last, carrying an envelope along with her potluck contribution. "This came to my office today," she said, handing it to me. "Thought you'd want to see it right away." Inside was official notification that Spencer had been suspended from all major insurance networks following the investigation's findings. Not a victory I'd sought for vengeance, but justice for the patients who had trusted him with their care. As twilight settled over the gathering, Maria clinked her glass for attention. "A toast," she announced. "To my sister who reminded us all that 42 isn't too late for a fresh start." Glasses raced around the circle. Friends who had weathered the storm with me, colleagues who had seen my resilience, family who had never doubted my strength. "To new beginnings," I added, my gaze catching on the acceptance letter to the Healthcare Administration Master's Program that sat on my counter. My next step forward. As stars appeared in the darkening sky, I realized the anniversary that had begun with betrayal had transformed into something unexpected. Not an ending, but a threshold. Not a loss, but a reclamation. The greatest gift, after all, had been the chance to rediscover myself.